Hi, I'm Sarah O'Connell.
Hi, I'm Julius Scotti.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Root.
Hi, I'm Fox Fisher.
Hi, I'm Shandy Moore.
Hi, I'm Annie Wallace.
Hey, I'm Romario Wanless, aka Mr. Black Branson.
Hello, every bloomin' body. Jordan Gray, tall dark friend here.
Hi, I'm Scott Turner Schofield.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Hurst.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hancock.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Gray.
Hi, my name's Jake Groff.
Hi, I'm Kate O'Donnell.
And welcome to The Sarah O'Connell Show.
Welcome to The Sarah O'Connell Show.
And welcome to The Sarah O'Connell Show.
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 And you're watching The Sarah O'Connell Show.
And welcome to The Sarah O'Connell Show.
And welcome to The Sarah O'Connell Show. She's dead good like.
Welcome to The Sarah O'Connell Show.
And welcome to The Sarah O'Connell Show.
And welcome to The Sarah O'Connell Show.
This is The Sarah O'Connell Show.
Welcome to The Sarah O'Connell Show.
While things are slowly improving, there's still a huge number of issues and inequalities faced by the trans community. In the past year, 295 trans and gender variant people have been murdered around the world simply for being who they are, which is completely unacceptable and shows how far the world still has to go. With this year coming to a close, in this episode I'll be asking what issues are still faced by trans people in 2016.
I don't know what it's like over there.
It's cold because it's England.
No, I meant socially, for trans folks. The biggest thing facing us, I don't think there's one big thing. I think I liken our story to the gay community when they first started making strides, and I think that we are further along than we were when I came out, certainly, and in 20 years we'll be a lot further along than we are now. I think it's a continuum, much like gender is, and I think we just need to live the best lives we can live in the most quality way possible, and people will respond in kind. If you show yourself to be a good human being, then how could they not like you? They don't not like you, but want to be around you. They don't necessarily have to like you, and I don't need everybody to like me. I need to like me.
Right.
Resources for the NHS. While the growing openness of society to trans people has increased phenomenally, and that's allowed people, more and more people with gender dysphoria or who are questioning their gender or are seeking to transition, and so this openness allows them to explore those possibilities and seeking help from the NHS. The NHS itself hasn't grown commensurately, so that means that the NHS is still catering for our community as it was maybe 15, 20 years ago, which means that it's tiny. And we all know that the NHS is underfunded anyway. We all know that resources are stretched. But the fact is that because there are more and more people seeking help, especially young people, there need to be more specialists who are working in our field to help trans people, because not every trans person eventually does transition, or not everybody who's questioning their gender does seek that, do they? So it's not necessarily that we need to have more hospital beds or so, and I'm sure that's part of it, but that's not the only thing. And I think that's one of the big challenges. I think certainly in the UK. I think globally there's still, for all the love that there is in the world for the LGBT community at the moment, there's still an awful lot of hate out there, and there are an awful lot of people who resent us and see us, regard us as second-class citizens or freaks of nature or whatever. I will never understand bigotry in any form. I just don't get it. It's a mindset that is totally unfathomable to me. But unfortunately, such people as the fella in Florida, whatever his name was, whatever his name was. I mean, that just evil man, so full of hate, unfortunately, people like him exist, and it's something that we face, So that's out there. But by and large, I would still say that there is a lot of love now towards us. There is a lot more acceptance and tolerance, and that's brilliant. And I hope it continues.
2016, I think we still have a bunch of issues that the trans community is facing. And in some ways, it hasn't changed, over the past 5 or 10 years, because there's certain laws that still aren't in place, and in certain countries, people still need to have sterilization, and and there's still court cases like the one that I'm dealing with at the moment, or helping to support, where a mum's been taken away from her young trans daughter, and the judge is clearly transphobic and doesn't really understand what's going on. And I think it's all about awareness, isn't it? I think that we need to. Trans people are such a wide range of people, and we come from all walks of life, and it just so happens that we don't define as the gender that we're assigned at birth, and so people get really confused. They're like, oh, well, certain people could be transgender, but you can't be transgender, and children can't be transgender, and so I think that we do have a way to go, and possibly I think the final frontier is trans youth. So I think that we're going to be making some proper progress over the next few years with that.
Absolutely. I think even just getting the message out that it's not, being trans isn't just something that occurs to us when we're out. I mean, I've known since I was 3.
Right.
A lot of people have sort of known their whole life, and I've identified with my gender just the same as any other person has.
Yeah.
It's just sort of getting that idea in people's heads. It's not, we're not recruiting.
No.
Can't catch it. It's just who we are.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It seems so simple to us, doesn't it? But I think it just takes a few more examples and a few more young people speaking from their own perspectives as well. And I think that when the press is really negative the way it is, mums and kids are really afraid to talk out. They become increasingly worried about whether the press is going to turn on them. And that's why I'd really love to make a documentary about trans youth in a mermaid style way, where there is like a residential, but it'd be en masse. So, it wouldn't just be 1 or 2 people being on the film, talking about being trans. It'll be, 50 or something. So, everybody's kind of almost protected because they're all together speaking about their experience.
Well, we are facing a lot. We have Donald Trump as our president-elect. He has a cabinet full of people who are against trans people. And so we are going to have to come together as a unit and continue to fight on. So I can't name any one thing specifically because there's so many things. There's a whole host of things that we have to continue to fight for in order to keep the movement alive. So we just have to work on mainly continuing to live our truths and continue to let these laws and regulations that have passed continue to stay in motion.
The biggest issue, abuse. Verbal, physical, social abuse is still the major hurdle that trans people have to suffer on a daily basis. From the kids walking back from school shouting tranny at you at the back of your head, to the teenagers driving past in a car, honk honk. It's still something. In work, people who transition in work are still getting abuse in that. That is the big hurdle to overcome. I think that there's more people who are supportive out there who would challenge that abuse now, whereas previously they might go, that's a really horrible thing to say, but I don't want to speak up because I don't want to be, associated with that person. I think there was a lot of a lot of fear about supporting a trans person in the same way that gay people, it wasn't a case of they're going to stand up. People didn't stand up for other gay people because they were frightened by association that might happen to them. I think now there's more people who are willing to come forward and go, no, that's not acceptable behaviour. You don't do that anymore. Get out. Oh, okay, I'll go. And good, because we have to challenge that kind of behaviour. The other thing, of course, that's challenging in 2016 is the Gender Recognition Act, which is hopefully, within the next couple of years, going to change, hopefully to the Irish model. But that big sticking point where there's still some legislative problems that need to be overcome, I think that that's definitely something that still is hampering trans people.
Segregation, in a way. I think there's still this pressure to fall into some sort of category. Like, okay, are we going to be non-binary? Is it cool to be like heteronormative? Is it cool to be binary? Like, there's still this pressure of, okay, I know I'm not the average. Oh my God, I need to scrap for some sort of label so I can fall into some sort of group, so I can be with somebody and feel needed.
Yeah.
I can see that still happening. I think it's starting to get a little bit dissipated because now everybody's like, holy crap, there's too many acronyms to follow. But I think that's one of the biggest things, because it's like we're already challenging the stereotype of what it means to be male and female. And I think we already have a lot of pressure on ourselves. So what we need to do is just relax and just live our lives and present ourselves as how we want to present ourselves, and not attempt to find a word to necessarily identify that. And if you do have a word that is your word, it's okay if the world does not identify or take on the same meaning of that word. It's okay if you want to explain that. No one is entitled to an explanation as to why you feel the way you do. But what they're entitled to is to be able to assess and choose if they want to spend time with you or not. That's their choice. But you just have one job, and that's just to exist.
Absolutely.
I think language moves far too quickly for our own good, so the terminologies and the words, people get carried away. A lot of teenagers who are still developing their sense of self tend to be the trendsetters when it comes to language as well. So these words spring up out of nowhere that people don't understand. That can be confusing. I think it's just about unity between this generation and the next and the one after that. It's about keeping everybody in the loop.
The biggest issue still facing trans people in 2016 is our ability to stay alive, whether it's to stay alive through violence that's directed at us from outside, or through the violence that we put on ourselves because we believe the outside telling us that there's something wrong with us. So, we have to learn how to be strong in who we are, how to stay safe, and how to stand up for our community and make anti-trans violence a very high offense that the weight of the law will prevent.
The biggest issue is one that's probably been around forever, isn't it? Understanding.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I feel like my role, if I have a role, is to educate. I don't want to be standing up, beating a drum, getting angry. And there is a place for that because we do need change.
Yeah.
But I think I found my place where I'm comfortable, and if that is educating a person that goes, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Well, you're not meant to get it.
Yeah.
But I think if you explain to them that it's biological.
Yeah.
When you're in the womb, there's a hormone imbalance. The brain forms opposite to what you come out looking like.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as you kind of explain that it's biology at play here, and it's not something kinky, people tend to have a light bulb moment.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found is that if they walk away from that conversation and usually give me a hug, there doesn't have to be a hug, but sometimes people feel the need, they've learnt something, they're probably less inclined to think of the next trans person they see in the street in a negative way.
Yeah, there's more understanding.
There's more
this
understanding.
time.
So if I found a role, it's to educate.
Great.
And I'm really happy in doing that because I think it's really important to educate people. And the more people that understand it, hell yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? There's some bigots out there. There's some people that just don't want to understand it because they don't want to open their mind.
Yeah.
They think that everything should be the way it is and you should not mess with the status quo. Well, actually, I've got some news for you.
Yeah.
Things are not exactly how they may seem all the time.
I think some people too just kind of think they're fine and they're normal,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
What is
that
normal
means if
though?
something isn't the same as them, then it makes them feel insecure, like they might
does,
not be the
doesn't it?
right way of doing things,
Exactly.
or there's only one way of doing
Yeah,
things.
exactly. So it's to educate and to help people understand it. And the more people that understand it, it's good, isn't it? The more people get it, which
Exactly.
is it's better for all of us.
And then more people can sort of come forwards and be themselves without discrimination.
And good
that
for
kind of
learning
thing.
stuff as well. Every day is
Yeah.
a school day. I want
Exactly.
to learn more about people.
Yeah.
I love people. A stranger is a friend you're yet to meet.
I like it. It's a good philosophy.
I try.
Yeah.
So I think that's a hard question. That I think there are still. Actually, I think I live in a bit of a bubble, and I feel like everything's fine. I feel like everyone's dead accepting these days. There's lots more education, but actually, then I come across something like online where it shocks me, and I'm like, oh my god, there are still people out there that are so prejudiced and that just don't understand at all. So I think, being trans at schools and things like that can be quite tough, and because of bullying and things. But I do believe that it's the parents, and it's not, nobody's born prejudiced. Nobody's born to judge, but it's the older generation kind of that perhaps might sway the younger generation in terms of parents influencing kids. And I think that there just needs to be more education brought into schools, and just it's not so that being trans isn't seen as a taboo, so kids should be able to learn about it, because the younger that we can teach kids about it, they'll grow up and realize it's not anything weird. We're all the same. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's lots of actual, issues. I mean, I know that in terms of I know that lots of people have difficulties sort of getting on the waiting list for surgeries and hormones, and there's a lot of sort of gatekeeping, so people kind of have to jump through hoops to I remember when I first went to the gender clinic, and at that point I was so sure of who I was, and I felt like I'd been on this massive long journey to realize who I was, and I was finally like, that's it, I'm a guy, I know exactly who I am.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the clinic, you've then got to wait at least a year before they even do anything about it, and it's like you've come all that way, finally know who you are, and then you've got to then wait for other people to believe who you are, which I think is quite hard.
Yeah,
I think more education, more clinics, more education in GPs and things as well would definitely make a big difference.
The biggest issues facing our community is, for one, Black trans women are being murdered. Trans women of color are being murdered. That's a big issue for me, because I'm a Black trans woman. I'm a trans woman of color. So I think that, and I think there needs to be more of an awareness about that. I mean, we talk about Black Lives Matter, and we're Black lives, and so I think that that's something that definitely needs to be brought to the forefront, and a solution on how we, sort of stop this from happening, and also just jobs for trans women, employment and health and education. There's so much that needs to be discussed about trans lives, and so we're making some progress. Actors and saying trans content on TV. I think we're making some steps, but what about everybody who doesn't want to be an actor, or who wants to be a lawyer or a doctor? It's like, we need to make sure that we're talking about those issues that affect people who just are living their everyday lives.
I think that the biggest issue still facing the trans community in 2016, I think there are still a lot of issues. We are still very much misunderstood. A lot of people still think that being trans is a mental illness, that we just need, proper mental health care, and that we'll sort of get over it. A lot of people, I think, because obviously with gay people, I think it's different. There are so many gay people out there, and there aren't that many trans people. So I think when a lot of people out there, I think it's something like 8% of Americans know someone trans, which is a tiny, tiny number. And I think when you don't know anyone trans, it we sort of remain almost this kind of like mysterious cloaked figure that, you know, people don't really get the measure of, because obviously, you know, they've never met anyone trans and they don't know that we're just like them, we're just like you, that we're all just as flawed, we're all just as right or wrong or beautiful or ugly, or, you know, we're all just the same as the rest of the world out there, just as different and diverse and interesting and unique. And that we're not a threat, obviously. You know, trans people don't mean any harm to anyone, and I think that's one of the sort of popular misconceptions that's sort of bandied around by a lot of kind of, you know, right wing or mainstream people that disagree with what it is to be trans and transgender. I think, you know, there's also a lot of infighting within the community. You know, there are a lot of trans folk I know that don't believe that the T should be included in LGBT. I think there are a lot of trans people that don't agree that, you know, the T should be included in LGBT, which, you know, I don't agree with. Again, I don't think there are enough of us for us to have the lobbying power to get anything that we want done. And I think it would be a huge mistake if the trans community separated themselves. You know, we're all being abused and harassed and beaten up by the same people. So I think to sort of pull ourselves away from that rainbow umbrella would be a massive mistake. And whilst there's all this infighting within our community, and sort of misunderstanding within the groups of, you know, those who consider themselves queer and those who don't, and those who consider themselves non-binary and those who don't, and those who consider themselves fluid, or I think, you know, that it's very hard for us as a community to actually progress and get anywhere when there's still so much misunderstanding within the community. So when there's that, you know, within our sort of surrounding and our immediate group, then you can just imagine what it might be like for cisgender mainstream people who just really don't get what we're all about. So I think there are still quite a lot of issues that we have to overcome before trans loses the stigma that it still carries today.
I think for young people it's a mixed bag. I think there's more awareness of it, there's the internet, there's more information, more visibility, but there's still a high rate of harm and self-abuse and suicide attempts within that community. So I really think we need to keep our eye out for young people. And I think on the other end of the scale, we've got older trans people who've had to live in stealth and been really denied a lot of the joy and the privilege that we have now. I mean, I came out 13 years ago and it was all about living in stealth. So I think there's still some lessons we need to learn from young people who are more confident and coming out earlier. That's not perfect. I've been talking to some trans parents today, whose kids are trans, so parents, and they're very anxious about their teen years. So I think we're evolving. We don't know what it's like to have trans kids in the world yet. We don't know. But I think we need to look after them, we need to look after ourselves, and we need to look after the older trans community. I think we need to look after the whole of the trans community as best we can, with love. That wraps it up for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and to everybody that contributed their stories. Please be sure to subscribe to The Sarah O'Connell Show, leave a huge thumbs up, leave any comments, ask questions, and be sure to share it, and stay tuned for the next episode of The Sarah O'Connell Show coming soon.